Alright, so super excited today. I'm going to put the frame on and then we're pretty much complete with our SMX screen. So, the first thing that I want to do here is I've got my projector on and I'm going to put a movie on that is the full widescreen, and I'm going to adjust the picture to be right where I want it. Then I'm going to take some measurements, and then that will kind of give me an idea of where the edges of my screen should be. And we're probably not going to get it perfect, but get it as close as possible. And I'm going to make the picture go all the way to the edge of my masking. So the masking is I'm going to start with the width, and the masking is what's going to determine basically ultimately the size of the picture. Okay, so I've got a video up. Unfortunately, I don't have my lighting controls all done, so I can't turn off the lights that are washing across the screen. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the edges here. You can see I've made it as wide as I can to the corner. I got my shadow there. And there's this chunk left, which is totally fine. I mean, that's more or less what we expected. We want enough space that we're gonna hide this behind the mask. And then we have a little bit more space to kind of, avoid exposing the rough edges of the masking there. And the frame that I have is 5.5-inch material. So what I'm basically doing is I'm looking to see where I want to put the mask. So if I have a 5.5-inch thick frame, I go all the way up to the picture there. I'm going to have, maybe an inch hanging outside of the metal frame, which is also good because then, as you're up here kind of looking at the screen, inspecting it, you're not going to get an angle where you can see the frame behind or the mechanism. So we're going to look at where this vertical mask ends. If we have the 5.5-inch frame material, it's going to stop about there. So the frame is actually going to come out to the end of my tape there. The vertical piece, and so we need that so that we know how big we want a horizontal frame to be, so that it will come out and it will hit that vertical corner just right. And so that's why we need to know exactly where our masking is going to end, where our vertical frame is going to sit before we cut our horizontal piece. And my screen is so big, I think it's 192 inches raw across here. So I'm going to have to cut separate pieces. I'm going to do 2 pieces instead of one giant piece, and then bolt them to the bottom of the frame here. But again, I need to know where the vertical piece is going to sit. It's going to sit about there, which is about 2 3/4 inches beyond my frame. So I'm going to measure how big I'm going to make this piece here. I'm going to add 2 3/4 inches so that it will line up with that vertical bar. So for my framing, I'm just using a 1x6 pine board. And the reason I chose pine is because it's lightweight and it's inexpensive. They had poplar, which probably would have been a little bit better, but $20 a board or more, it just didn't seem like it was worth it. When the pine was, I think $8 a board for these. These are 8-footers, and so I just needed to cut a tiny bit off. I'm going to use 2 for each horizontal piece, and then 1 for each vertical piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these down to size, and then we'll wrap them in the velvet, and then we'll put them on the frame. Okay, so I have my pine cut to the right size, and I've got these L brackets that I found online that I think are just the right size. Just kind of give you an idea of how these are going to attach. They're going to attach to the underside here. They're going to sit like that, and so that the pine just kind of floats right above, leaves a little channel for the slide to slide behind. And you can see how that looks here. I've got my T-nut here ready to install. And so I'm just going to take it and I'm going to put it right up on the underside of the channel there. And then luckily I think these are just the right size. If I, so for example, if I put this here and I line it up, I think it looks just like that, which is perfect. You may find one with a slot in it that would be adjustable. That might be a nice option as well. So I'll go ahead and bolt this on, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, now obviously we need to add our felt onto this first, so I will remove that and wrap it with felt to put it back on. But I wanted to dry fit it. There you go. So you can see all the way through there's a gap, a slight gap, which is enough that, you know, it won't actually rub or anything, which is perfect. So that's what we want to see. You know, and once I get it on there, I can loosen it and slide it back and forth and get it locked right into where I want it. But for now, I'm going to take it off and I'm going to wrap it in fabric. So I had a forum member ask me how I plan to wrap these frame pieces in my felt here, my velvet. And I just plan to do the normal canvas stretch where you work from the middle, go outwards. And what I found works best is if I start on the ends here and I pull the fabric tight long ways, then I put a few staples in either side. Then I work from the middle and go outwards, and I pull and work my way out. And if you use a lot of staples, you get a nice smooth finish. I found if I don't stretch on the ends first, that you do get some wrinkles. Anyway, I'm going to do my best to make this nice and smooth. Anyway, even though if there are some wrinkles, I won't be able to see them. The room's really forgiving, so that's nice. So I'm going to go ahead and install this fabric, and we'll take a look and see what it looks like afterwards and see how smooth it is here in this room where we have good light. Okay, so here I've pulled the ends tight. You can see a lot of staples there, a lot of staples there, and then a lot of staples here. So what I'm doing is, like here, for example, I would pull really tight towards the end. So I'm pulling this way. I'm pulling really tight this way, put a few staples in, go to the other side, do the same thing, put a few staples in. And you have to use probably more staples than you think you do, once you realize. And if you see any wrinkles pop up here, what you can do is pull and put an extra staple in there. So as you flip that over, you get a nice smooth finish. It looks nice. Now I haven't gone all the way down, so you can see I stopped right about here. So I just need to do the rest of them. Yeah. Now when you get to the ends, you don't want to just grab it and bunch it up because you'll get a really thick piece here. What I like to try to do is fold it, kind of like you're folding a present. And so you just have one fold, and you just have maybe 2 or 3 layers to deal with. And then you can pin that back with a staple. Because I feel like I need to get a lint roller for this thing, but I wanted to show that the end result is pretty smooth all the way down the line, and any imperfections will be hidden by the lack of light in my room anyway. So that is one piece of the whole frame. I'm going to screw this to the vertical bars, and then I've embedded some magnets here. And I figure, and this is pretty solid, I figure then I can pull off those vertical pieces at any time and get access to the rollers. Because of the way that the fabric wraps around the frame, there really aren't any good places there to mount the vertical part of the frame. But I wanted to address this because some of you might have seen that and wondered what in the heck it is. So the magnet to connect this vertical bar here worked marvelously. I've got a light here shining, so just because it's so hard to even make anything out with this velvet and this lighting, I still need to get the lint taken care of. But you can see that there's an edge here, and it just snaps right on, and I can push it right into place. You can see how solid that is. You know, it's not going anywhere. In fact, I can move the whole entire frame. You can see here there's just a, well, if maybe you can see there's just a slight gap here between the actual frame piece and the mask. And that will make sure that, you know, it's not going to rub or smack against it. All right, so it's time to check out the screen in all its glory. So we've got 16 by 9. It's nice and quiet and not too slow, so that's pretty good. 4 by 3. And back to 16 by 9. And if I determine that I want to stop it at some point, I can just press the My button one time. It will stop at any position, custom aspect ratio. Back to 16 by 9. And full CinemaScope. Beautiful. So to sum it all up, I think the project went really well. My goals were met. I got a screen with great motorization for little cost and comparatively little effort. You know, when I think back to all of the steps, everything pretty much went right as planned, fell right into place. The one issue I think I had was I underestimated how hard it would be to roll fabric up on a roller that was vertical. The fabric, this velvet fabric that I used, didn't have a lot of structure to it. And so, you know, it was very loose, and even though it didn't stretch very much, you know, it just didn't have, you know, it wasn't like a canvas, for example, where it would kind of stand up on its own and have some structure. I'd be interested if there was some velvet that did have more structure, how that would work for you. But, you know, I found that if I were to give advice as to how to hang that fabric, I would say focus on getting things straight and even. You know, if your fabric is cut square and your frame and your bars and everything are square, and your sliders are square, then when you're taping that fabric onto the roller, the fabric should, you know, should sit on the roller in the same spot. Make sure everything's nice and square. Don't pull it unevenly as you're taping it on there, and I think you'll be fine. So my issue was that initially, you know, the very top wants to drape because of just the way it's cut at the edge and everything. The top wants to drape, and so I initially tried to compensate for that by pulling it extra tight. And, you know, the problem with that was that then it kind of pulled the bar a little bit unevenly and ended up with a mask that was kind of trapezoidal. And so what I would suggest is just focus on getting it nice and square, and the fabric might drape just a tad. It will just kind of hang loose. And all I did was I just pinched it at the top. It only takes, you know, a centimeter or two pinched together. And I just stuck a pin to hold it together. And that just sits behind the border, so you don't see it at all. And it works great. But if you don't get it even, or if you try pulling it a little bit tighter as you go, you'll start to get wrinkles and things. It really needs to have even pressure as it's rolling up, especially this fabric that doesn't have any structure. So other than that piece, I think everything just kind of went right into place, worked exactly how it was designed to. And, you know, I would recommend doing this or something like it. My goal was really to show this aluminum framing and all of the different things you can do to it. You know, I connected the rollers on the back I've got the border with the L brackets on the top and bottom. I've got the bungee attached. And the screen, of course, I did the screen grommets. So it's very versatile. And if nothing else, I hope that this gives people ideas for how they might want to, attack their own custom screen. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that. As far as cost, if I add it all up, I think I paid about $400 or $450 for the aluminum. That includes the T-nuts and all the little bits, the brackets and attachments and everything. And that also includes shipping, which was not insignificant for these big, long structures. And then I'm into the motors, probably another $400, considering the motors and the brackets and the aluminum roller tube and all of that. Then the screen material, you can really go lots of different ways. You could spend $100 or less on some spandex. You could spend several $100s on something like a Seymour XD screen that's pre-grommeted, or custom grommeted, I should say. Or you could spend a few thousand and get something like my high gain Stewart screen. So that's kind of variable. The velvet cost me a few hundred as well. So if you were to go with like a Seymour XD with a grommet, I would say you'd probably be around $2,000 all told. That's about probably 10% or less of the cost of a professional kit that would be this size and would do this type of masking. So significant savings if you're willing to put in a little bit of work without doing too much. Didn't have to do any wiring, didn't have to do any motor control, anything like that. The remote is all I needed to program, so that was pretty simple. So overall, it's really, really a good deal, I think. So all they have left to do is to tie this in with automatic aspect ratio detection. And I don't think there's anything off the shelf to do that. So that's going to be a project. I'm probably not going to tackle that anytime soon. This theater has taken me the better part of 4 years to really finish. And so I think I'm going to just spend some time and enjoy it for a while. And then maybe one day I'll kind of get the itch to tackle a project. The remote works great for the aspect ratio. I just have to do it on my own manually. It would be really nice to have the automatic detection. I'll need to do some serial port programming probably, and tie that in with my Lumagen to get that going. So, that'll be a nice weekend project down the road. These Somfy motors, they do have a Lutron bridge that's designed like if you have shades on your windows, you want to automate them, with your lighting and everything else. So that is off the shelf, that if you're interested in being able to push a button for your theater automation and have the lights go down and have the screen open or something like that, that is a piece that you can just go buy and hook into your system. So that's something worth looking at. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm glad that it worked out. You kind of go on faith as you build a screen like this and you're making videos, and you hope that it works out, because if not, you're going to have an unfinished project, or you end up with something really crappy to show people. So I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that it works great, and I hope that you all enjoyed, or that you at least found it informative. So thanks. Let me know what you think.